What is up, everybody? Solomon here. Super excited to be with Genfinity, interviewing a multitude of builders across Web3. This is a little bit of a bucket list one for me. We have Kamal Yousefi, president of the board at the Hashgraph Association, with us today. Hashgraph Association is driving multiple initiatives for adoption of Hedera Hashgraph out of the MENA region and beyond. Kamal, I always like to start these with a little bit of an intro, background, overview. You're an OG within the Hedera ecosystem, going all the way back to 2018. Tell us a little bit about kind of your history within the ecosystem, and an overview of THA, and we'll get into the weeds here.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, for having me here in this session. Kamilis is my name. I am a co-founder and the president of the board of the Hashgraph Association. The Hashgraph Association is a non-profit making organization based out of Switzerland that has been established with a mandate from Hedera Governing Council to drive the broad adoption of Hedera technology. Starting out of Switzerland, the natural home for crypto projects, and export these programs and initiatives across the world. My journey with Hedera actually goes back to the beginning of 2018, when I first started interacting and working with key leaders within Hedera ecosystem. In fact, with the co-founders of, back at the time, Swords Inc., who are Dr. Lehman Baird and Mans Harman, who are actually the inventors of the Hashgraph consensus algorithm. And we started exploring different use cases, let's say viable use cases that can be deployed. We call them enterprise-grade applications and decentralized solutions that can be adopted by highly regulated institutions. And in the summer of 2018, we have kind of discussing the setup of Hedera and the platform itself. And we had a vision of creating the Hedera Governing Council, basically a group of up to 39 highly diversified organizations, trusted organizations across the globe, that are going to be mandated and tasked to steer the development of Hedera network and also govern the network of Hedera Hashgraph as a technology. A few months later, we settled, and I had the privilege and honor representing Swisscom Group back at the time, and being a member or part of the initial founding members, which included back at the time Magazine Magalu, Bank Nomura, DLA Paper, Boeing, and Deutsche Telekom, plus Swords Inc. as the originator of the governing council of Hedera Hashgraph.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know, so I'll give a shout out to the ecosystem. Yesterday, we saw Aero Electronics join the governing council, or I think it's phrased as the Hedera Council now, which is, it's huge. It's going to be really interesting to see that kind of that council fill out, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the use cases driving out of that as well. So I want to get into maybe a high level overview. Tell us about the Hashgraph Association, vision, mission, and purpose, strategic goals, things like that.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier on, the Hashgraph Association has been founded end of 2021 out of Switzerland, with the mission to actively empower Hedera Hashgraph community, drive the broad adoption of the technology, support Hedera-powered projects and initiatives across the globe, and also leverage, or let's say attract talent and retain them within Hedera ecosystem, and drive DLT, or let's say Hedera-powered business transformations across the globe. We aim at achieving these by deploying highly effective enablement and empowerment programs, starting with professional and educational programs, basically training and certification, all the way up to entrepreneurship and innovation programs, including venture building programs across industries, to help entrepreneurs, startups, innovators to design, develop, and deploy viable use cases while leveraging Hedera Hashgraph capabilities. So, in a summary, if you look at it from a holistic point of view, we have I call them the 5 strategic pillars. So the first strategic pillar is education and empowerment. basically equipping Hedera Hashgraph community with the technical and the functional knowledge to design, develop, and deploy viable solutions and decentralized applications that are leveraging Hedera Hashgraph capabilities. Second pillar or the strategic goal is funding, basically deploying resources to achieve long-term success and sustain transformational impact within Hedera ecosystem. The third pillar is acceleration. This is something that we achieve by launching enablement and empowerment programs. Just to give an example, for example, the Innovation Program or the Hashgraph Enterprise Program, or even the Hashgraph Venture Building Program, where we provide a mix of support functions, including funding, engineering support, go-to-market strategy support, board seats, mentors, and injecting subject matter experts out of our organization or out of our community in general within high growth potential projects to ensure successful implementation. The fourth pillar is scaling. That's something that we aim to achieve or we target to achieve by partnering with established and trusted ecosystem partners in strategic regions. These strategic partners can be academic institutions and universities, can be technology partners, basically dedicated and specialists in one of the technologies or in a number of the technologies. It can be also a system integrator, basically large IT companies that can help us with large-scale transformations. It can also be management consulting firms like PwC, McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group. And I believe you hosted in one of your editions Urs Rana, who is running the venture arm of Boston Consulting Group out of Germany, to engage with them and collaborate with them when it comes to enterprise-grade use cases that are leveraging Hedera Hashgraph. The last and the fifth pillar is cross-pollination. What does it mean is basically creating synergies within Hedera ecosystem to foster business growth and promote collaboration within Hedera ecosystem. It doesn't matter whether you are as a builder or as a startup or an enterprise or a member of the governing council or even one of our engineers to collaborate on a project or on a use case and number one, to create value within Hedera ecosystem, and most importantly, to retain that value within Hedera ecosystem.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, we've had the opportunity, and thank you guys so much for supporting the podcast, to do a number of podcasts with strategic, relationships that you guys have with some of the biggest entities like out there in the world. So you can imagine from my stance being, coming from I used to do crypto research and DLT research back in 2019, 2020, 2021. And I was deep diving documents of Deloitte and Boston Consulting Group and, some of the biggest entities out there, PwC. So to be able to get to the point of now in 2020, 2025, being able to interview some of these entities is absolutely humbling for me, I'll say. I guess the question I have is how have those relationships developed over the years? Because I know some of those are maybe a little bit longer standing relationships, and we're kind of at the point now where we're seeing some real world implementations. What do those relationships look like from the THA? Yeah,
so it depends. So as I mentioned, there are different categories, and we as the Hashgraph Association, we realize that to really have the footprint across the world, you need to have strategic partners, and we believe in fruitful partnerships, and that's why as part of our global expansion plans, we always target establishing fruitful and strategic partners out of strategic regions operating out of key jurisdictions. And we have 4 clusters. There is the tech partners. These are basically the experts. These can be technology partners when it comes to the digital identity or when it comes to the real world asset tokenization, stablecoin, cross-border payments. So we have really a bunch of these top tech partners across the globe. And these guys are the ones that are really acting as subject matter experts to our project that are onboarded through the Hashgraph Association or the ones that the Hashgraph Ventures Fund has invested in. So basically, when it comes to subject matter expertise, we do reach out to these partners to soak the knowledge from them and also collaborate with them in the project execution. The second category, as I mentioned earlier on, are large system integrators. These are, for example, Accenture, Swisscom, Orange, IBM, Wipro, Tata Consulting, and others. So we do engage with these organizations when it comes to large-scale projects, basically projects that out of capacity reasons, we cannot handle that out of the Hashgraph Association, and we cannot even handle that if we partner with our colleagues out of US, the Hashgraph, or our colleagues out of the Hedera Foundation. So we kind of focus mainly on the DLT use case or the DLT touch points, basically Hedera touch points, and how Hedera is creating value. And when it comes to traditional IT implementation, that's something that we kind of delegate to these organizations, since they have accumulated a wealth of experience over the last 100 years when it comes to project execution. Then we have the management consulting firms like McKinsey, PwC, Boston Consulting Group, EY, and others. So from these guys, we kind of switch the equation. So we act more or less as the tech partners for them. So when it comes to Web3 subject matter expertise, then our engineers are taking the lead and taking the driving seat, while our colleagues and counterparts at these management consulting firms are the ones who are putting the strategy together, putting the vision together, checking the regulatory framework, coordinating with the regulators, with the policymakers, to make sure that the use case that we are working on is not only technically feasible, it's also economically viable, and it's also in compliance with local requirements and regulatory frameworks. And the fourth category, as I mentioned, is the research and academic institutions at universities, because we believe we need to kind of prepare the supply side of the equation. And what I mean by that is really preparing the next generation of Hedera champions and developers by tapping into the talent of these universities, either by providing them boot camps or summer schools, or even offering elective modules within their curriculum of studies, and prepare them to be top engineers within Hedera ecosystem before even they leave the university. And these relationships, some of them are really a result of 20 years of professional experience and engaging with this type of accounts. Some of them have accumulated over the last 5 years since we started engaging or running the Hashgraph Association. Some of them resulted through existing relationship within the Hedera Governing Council, which is really a great USP that we have within our ecosystem. When you have banks like Bank Nomura or Standard Bank helping us maintaining and establishing great relationships with top ecosystem partners, that's something really massive. And then you have also governing council members who are also in the driving seat when it comes to the development of Web3 solutions like Google, like IBM, and others. And we have, for example, also BitGo, who are one of the top custodians out there in the Web3 industry. So if you look at it, it's really unifying all the forces that we have within the Hedera ecosystem, be it through the governing council or through the Hedera Foundation or the Hashgraph Association or Hashgraph colleagues out of US. So basically, we are putting everything together and trying to create value. And as I mentioned, we try also to retain and capture that value within Hedera ecosystem.
If you ever have the opportunity to get Tata Consultancy Services or Accenture on for one of these podcasts, I will raise my hand 1,000% of the time. That would be awesome. But I think, it was really interesting for me to kind of get some insight from the Deloittes and PwCs of the world. And what's interesting, and I'm sure you realize this too, you get into conversations with all of these kind of large players that kind of operate either as systems integrators or whatever it may be. I hear a lot of synergy in what they say. It's to actually solve real world problems. So it's always interesting to me to kind of hear, PwC is totally, separate entity than Deloitte, totally separate entity than BCGX. But they all say some similar stuff, and they've all been such a pleasure to interview. So I thank you guys.
Absolutely. And I believe we've already live project with Deloitte out of Netherlands. We have an ongoing project with PwC Switzerland. I'm more than happy to coordinate and arrange that. And so that I will let them also speak for themselves about their engagement and their experience within the Hashgraph Association, and also their impression and feedback about Hedera platform and its technical capabilities.
100%. I want to ask, because I know that you guys are involved in all the educational initiatives kind of at the collegiate level. This is more of just a broad question.
Yes.
As blockchain and distributed ledger gets more widely adopted, do you think that we're going to start see education initiatives in earlier periods of time for schooling like when kids are in high school or in middle school or in primary school? Like, do you think that that's going to happen over time?
It is happening. It is happening. If you go back 5 years back, the Web3 and blockchain education was basically exclusive for executives and chief innovation officers. A couple of years later, it was kind of a subject for PhD students and master classes. And now we see that already as not only as an elective module within the studies, be it economics or be it computer science or computer engineering, but now it's becoming a core module, basically distributed ledgers, or it's in combination of distributed databases and big data technologies. You see content around Web3 and distributed ledger technologies. And I do see in the near future the integration of Web3 education and also blockchain and digital assets as part of educational programs in the schools. So it's just a matter of time.
I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of watch, like, especially with like the advent of like agentic AI, the intermingling with like blockchain and distributed ledger. I think over time, like, I think one of the pain points, at least in the United States, from like an educational standpoint, is like you have this kind of boilerplate curriculum that everybody has to fall within. But I do think we're going to get to a society in 15, 20 years, whatever, where you're going to be able to custom tailor educational solutions for each child. And I think it's going to be really interesting.
Absolutely. And just to give you maybe some insights out of the Crypto Valley, since I'm here today in the Crypto Valley, there will be the launch of the first digital assets and blockchain faculty in the world out of Switzerland, where people are going to really have academic grades specifically for digital assets and crypto assets and distributed ledger technologies. And as we speak today, the Hashgraph Association itself, we are involved in providing different custom programs and summer school programs, not only for students, but also for schools, not only for universities, but also for schools, where we prepare the youth and the talent on what's happening and what's coming next when it comes to the technology. And look at Web3 as the next iteration of internet. And you and me, when we were in the school, Ryan, we had our lessons and our lectures around internet, how to deal with the computer, what is the mouse, what is the
how to type. I remember a class on how to type,
how to install, how to how to play the CD-ROM, how to use the diskette, and so many lectures. And to me, that was more or less the Web3 stage or the Web3 era. Now we are entering, or we are already in the middle of the Web3. And I do expect this type of educational programs to happen, where you see the convergence of all these emerging technologies, where you see the decentralized or distributed ledger technologies and their overlap, or let's say their synergy with the cognitive capabilities of AI and machine learning, and some sort of use cases with robotics and Internet of Things. So this is happening. It's just a matter of time. And as you know, that type of top-down approach, it's happening, but it just takes time. And for some privileged schools and private schools, because they have that some sort of freedom and flexibility to run this type of courses, we have continuously requests to facilitate workshops or let's say a summer program, or let's say a weekend program for the students in schools to learn about blockchain technologies. So this is happening. It's just a matter of time.
I want to ask you a little bit too on just kind of, we don't have to get too deep into the weeds here, but like different Web3 collaborations. I know that you were with on stage with the Genfinity group. I think it was probably a handful of months at this time. And I was telling you before we went live here, like I actually had the opportunity to interview Emilio, Director of Global Adoption at Genfinity. And I kind of asked, about the, being on Hashgraph Association being on stage with Genfinity, and he kind of just went down the rabbit hole a little bit. And he's like, yeah, there's a working group and this other stuff.
Yes.
We don't have to get too deep into the weeds with that stuff, but what are the relationships like with other, founders out there in the space at the layer one level, or I think sometimes we get lost on crypto Twitter, and a lot of people kind of get into this echo chambery thing, but what is it really like out there, and what are you excited about for collaboration?
Yes, absolutely. Before I answer this question, let me maybe give you a little bit of the context about the Swiss crypto ecosystem. The Swiss ecosystem has been home to many large crypto projects that drive the technology innovation. The ecosystem here in Switzerland has consistently housed really top and a number of unicorn projects, and I think we have about or over 2,000 blockchain projects came to Switzerland over the last 5 years that are really driving the technology innovation and DLT innovation out of Switzerland. Which I told you a couple of minutes ago, which includes the establishment of Ethereum Foundation back in July 2014 here in this street where I'm sitting right now in the Crypto Valley here out of Zug. Back to the topic. I remember at the peak, it was like 3 or 4 years ago, we had about 12 out of the top 20 crypto layer ones were domiciled here in Switzerland. And there have been also many crypto startups and crypto native companies that migrated from different jurisdictions and have settled there. And as a result of that, there have been different working groups and different partnerships between the leaders of the different layer ones. So, and one of these partnerships and one of these great relationships that we maintain through the Hashgraph Association is the relationship with Genfinity / with the ICP guys. We have also similar relationship with Solana. We have similar relationship with Cardano. We have similar relationship with other layer ones. And the idea is really how can we unify forces to drive the Web3 adoption? How can we support the establishment of the Web3 industry? And each layer one has its strengths and its weaknesses. And in our philosophy is how can we bring all these technologies together to establish the concept of polyglot systems or polyglot platforms? What does that mean? It means how can we unify forces to develop an application that is leveraging Hedera Hashgraph capabilities and at the same time leveraging the strengths and the capabilities of ICP or Solana or Corda or any other layer one or layer two technology, so that we can enhance and improve the user experience and make sure that we don't have any frictions within the Web3 ecosystem. And in the context of Genfinity, we have 3 different projects that we have lined up. We have also a strong working group working and executing on these 3 projects / use cases. I cannot reveal the detail yet, but we are more than happy to announce that very soon. So one project is going to be in US, one project is going to be out of the Middle East, and there is one other what's going to be out of Europe. But the synergy there is really we have 2 top technologies. How can we make that happen? It's similar to the Decentralized Recovery Alliance, the initiative that Dr. Lehman has initiated a couple of years ago. Basically, how can we bring all these top leaders, Algorand, Ripple, Hedera, representatives, and Cardano to work together and come up with something in the benefit of the Web3 end users? It doesn't really matter whether we position Cardano or Hedera or ICP, but the goal is really how can we bring the strengths of all these technologies together to provide something amazing for the end user. But for sure, me as Kamal, I'm here. My heart is beating for Hedera, and I'm positioning and supporting and advocating for Hedera all the time, 24/7. But for sure, whenever I see a synergetic or a synergy or a potential synergy with other layer ones, that's something that we do explore actively, openly, and we try to create value together.
So I want to shift here and maybe get a little bit, and I know you touched on this briefly, but when we think about like the Hedera ecosystem kind of scaling, you know, you've been here since the beginning. I think I don't even think I know I tested out daily timestamp in 2019, which was like you would read an article and get like micro streamed HBAR and stuff like that. But we've seen the ecosystem totally shift over the past 6 years. There's so many awesome kind of projects that are launching that it's really even hard to keep track of. Yes. I want to kind of ask from your stance, your thoughts on where the ecosystem how far the ecosystem has come, and maybe get a little bit deeper into how you guys help projects. Like, what types of projects are you guys seeing now that want to launch, maybe with real world kind of business use cases compared to kind of at the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we compare the Hedera ecosystem from over the last 5 to 7 years, massive development. We have been witnessing massive and great development in the ecosystem, be it in the number of active users, be it on the number of trained and certified engineers and developers, be it in the number of the projects that we have enabled and supported, based on looking also at the number of the partnerships that we have established, be it with venture capital funds, with sovereign wealth funds, with government entities, ministries, enterprises, startups. It's really, really massive. And that's actually one of the strategies, or let's say one of the core pillars of the Hashgraph Association philosophy. And that's actually the reason why we have structured our enablement and innovation programs around 5 core building blocks. Exactly for that, to drive the technology adoption and ensure the successful implementation and deployment of impactful use cases and projects. So these 5 core building blocks, for example, are centered around education, innovation, incubation, acceleration, and lastly, transformation. So if you look at it, really, we are trying to support from early stage by providing training programs, certification programs, all the way up to structured and tailor-made innovation and entrepreneurship programs, to incubation, acceleration, all the way up to full transformation for the startups, or let's say the projects that have managed to complete and deliver their milestones. In this context, the Hashgraph Association takes a pragmatic approach that combines left brain technology skills with right brain innovative thinking. Basically, we try to merge business acumen with the technology expertise to accelerate the transition from an innovative business idea to a successfully deployed Hedera-enabled product. So that's more or less our approach. That's more or less our strategy when it comes to providing hands-on support, something that we call high-touch, low-scale approach. Basically, try to provide not only funding or grants, but also we do provide engineering support, project management, execution support, coaching, mentoring. We do even help onboarding top qualified board members to help you grow your business, position your business, help you shape up the go-to-market strategy so that we ensure successful implementation and successful positioning, number one, within the Hedera ecosystem by connecting you with Hedera Governing Council members or connecting you with affiliated members, either through the Hashgraph Association or other partners through the Hedera Foundation. And last but not least, we do also connect our grantees and investees with other businesses outside of Hedera ecosystem to help them generate new revenue streams and establish footprints in different jurisdictions across the globe.
Awesome. Thank you. I want to get into this because I know this was one of the more exciting things that we've seen recently, which is the Hedera Africa Hackathon, $1 million prize pool, which is massive.
That's minimum. $1 million is minimum.
Yeah, well, that's crazy. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about this. Like, how did this come to fruition? I know that this is you guys in tandem with Exponential Science Foundation and all the amazing work that Paolo Tasca and team do
Yes.
over there. I've said this before. I've done like in deep dive videos, and even in some, I've interviewed Paolo once. If you want to see a crazy resume in Web3, look up Paolo Tasca's resume. He's just a behemoth in this space. But tell us a little bit about this hackathon, what it represents as a milestone, and what you're looking forward to.
Before I start, I want to really give a lot of kudos to Paolo Tasca. When I talked to him about that idea, he was really supportive. He kind of came up with a lot of questions, and after a while, he said, "Come on, let's just make it happen." So a big thank you to him and the team at the Exponential Science Foundation. They really drove that initiative, and he actually suggested, he said, "Come on, why don't we make it bigger, and then we can kind of expand that to different continents?" I said, "Well, that was the plan, Paolo. Let's start out of Africa, and then we can replicate the experience in Europe, in the Americas, and also in Asia, in the Middle East. And then we kind of make a final hackathon that includes all the winners from the different continents." But back to the African hackathon initiative. The African Hackathon Initiative is focused on equipping Hedera Hashgraph community in Africa with Hedera Hashgraph knowledge and technical know-how so that they can design and develop and implement innovative applications out of the continent. And the goal here is really to democratize access to the Web3 economy while including underprivileged countries and regions, which we all know Africa is certainly one of them. So the African Hackathon is structured around the 5 core building blocks that I mentioned to drive the technology adoption and help them build on Hedera, understand Hedera, and also explore and bring use cases out of the region that can be built on Hedera Hashgraph. And we didn't provide any restrictions, to be honest, when it comes to the use cases and when it comes to the project. We kept it open. But based on the project submissions that we have so far, I can maybe give you a cluster of roughly 3 to 5 use cases or areas where we see a lot of momentum and a lot of, or let's say, really innovative and pioneering ideas that are going to be built on Hedera. And ultimately, these teams are going to compete with these use cases to win the prize or be part of the winners. So number one is the digital identity. So many have submitted use cases and ideas how they can leverage Hedera Hashgraph technology to build digital identity solutions / self-sovereign identity. There have been also, the second cluster is ESG and sustainability. And we all know that Hedera Hashgraph is the greenest public ledger out there as we speak today, which really a very good and natural fit and match. Use cases around supply chain management. We also have a bunch of use cases and projects submitted around real-world asset tokenization, on-chain finance, DeFi, and fintech in general. And last but not least is the fifth cluster is the consumer engagement and loyalty programs. So these are more or less the use cases cluster, if you wish. But we have also some applications which are basically focusing on the intersection between EI and DLT, or between EI and Hedera Ledger. And we hope to see innovative use cases with viable solutions that leverage the convergence of Web3 and EI, where Web3 provides the underlying infrastructure that supports decentralized solutions and transparent systems, while EI contributes the cognitive capabilities needed to analyze data, optimize processes, and facilitate decision-making and automate the execution. So that's more or less the target of the Hedera Hackathon in Africa.
Awesome. And I know, so, you know, I think this was just announced for those watching and listening right now, maybe just a couple of weeks ago. The awareness campaign is still ramping up. So if you guys want to learn more, please go to Hedera Tech, hackathon.hashgraph.swiss, and check it out, register, stay in touch with kind of what's going on, because I'm sure that this stuff's going to really start ramping up very, very soon.
And maybe just to add, for the ones who are not in Africa, the doors are open, so they can also participate and join one of the African teams. They can join as mentors or as subject matter experts or as contributors or as developers or even as members of the team. And Orange in Africa did an amazing job. And through our partnership with Orange, for example, we have about 16 offices in about 16 countries where Hedera community can pass by and benefit from the boot camps, meetups, and the hacking stations that we are offering and providing for our community across Africa. So if someone is interested and willing to engage and provide expertise, or even join one of the teams, please do visit our hackathon website and register for this initiative.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you heard it here first. If you guys are interested and you're not in Africa, reach out to some of the teams and try to participate if you can. I think what's been interesting to me is, like, through some of these interviews over the past few months, and even as you mentioned, 16 different offices. I mean, this is kind of some of the stuff that I think that a lot of time, as, you know, maybe Hedera community participants, we don't hear about kind of how widespread the ecosystem really is. And I would love, maybe, can you just give us an overview of the Hashgraph Association throughout different jurisdictions, and maybe what some of the differences are with traction for adoption in different jurisdictions, because I'm sure every country is different.
Indeed. I mean, the Hashgraph Association, as one of the strategic decisions that we have made over the last 3 years, we said let's start from a country where we have that regulatory framework and that legal certainty. And back at the time, I think it was Switzerland. That's where we have that regulatory framework and we have that legal certainty. So we were really, it was clear for us to start crypto and digital assets businesses. Then later on, I think early 2022, we said, well, let's also target and establish Hedera footprints in strategic regions and operating out of key jurisdictions. So for example, in Europe, we said we're going to do that and cover that out of Switzerland and Liechtenstein, since Liechtenstein is part of the European Union. In Africa, we said we need to do that out of Morocco and out of South Africa. There we see a lot of momentum. And we were right, for example. So Morocco recently, or last year actually, we published their regulatory framework around digital assets and crypto assets. We have a presence as well in APAC out of Singapore and Hong Kong. And last but not least, out of the Middle East, where we have strong presence in Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar. And these are very known Web3 hubs and venture capital funds when it comes to Web3 investments. So we have, and we have also a very strong community in India. That's something that we have invested a lot over the last 18 months. And we launched an initiative of about eight months, I believe, where we provided education for roughly 20,000 Indian talents, be it professionals and also students. And the momentum and the community is really increasing every day. And there are a bunch of programs, initiatives that we have structured and deployed over the last few years. And I'm proud of the team and I'm proud of the results. And we are really driving the ecosystem development across the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned, and I should kind of, I'll give a preface here that next week. So I think the decentralized identity and digital identifiers and things like that are one of the more kind of widely adopted things that are going to happen off the back end of this technology. And it'll be really interesting because I believe it's like next Wednesday or next Thursday, we have a podcast interview with Mika, who's running kind of a developer group, which is going to be a really interesting interview. I had the ability to do a prep call with him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I told him, I'm like, we could probably do like 5 or 10 podcasts from all the stuff, because he has all these pillars of adoption and stuff that he's working on. He's like, why don't we start with identity and go from there? So really,
Mika is a star. He's a star. He's our head of engineering. He has a deeper understanding of all the projects that we have funded or supported over the last few years. And one of his favorite projects is the digital identity. So you can really ask him everything.
I went to his LinkedIn, and his LinkedIn in his bio says decentralization maxi.
he is really a decentralization maxi. So I know I had the privilege of working with Mika since 2017, I believe. Yes, 2017. So I know him as a friend, as a colleague. So we worked on several projects together. Again, back to my point, because all the great projects really started out of Switzerland. So you had the chance to get connected with everyone. Now, even everyone is kind of moving out of Switzerland and establishing in the Middle East, specifically in Emirates, in Abu Dhabi, or in Dubai. There we see like huge traction and huge momentum when it comes to Web3. But I will touch base on that maybe later. But by having the chance to work here in Switzerland for the initial 5 years, from 2014 till 2020, you had really the chance to get in touch with all the crypto pioneers and decentralization maxis across the world, because they came all here to Switzerland. And then after a while, they kind of either went back to Singapore or to the Middle East or to USA. But that's where the network of all the crypto maxis has been established.
Well, please expand. I mean, I think you mentioned Dubai and a bunch of traction kind of out of there. Please expand on that a little bit for us. And then we're about to ramp down soon, so I want to make sure I capture as much as I can here.
No worries. I mean, as you know, the MENA region, which is the Middle East and North Africa, has established itself as a leading global hub for Web3 projects, thanks to the government-led initiatives, reduced business frictions, enhanced security, and the entrepreneurship mindset, and also the world-class infrastructure that these countries have. So there are also other factors that are driving the broad adoption of Web3 and crypto and digital assets in the region, which includes, for example, a large and youth-heavy population. So, for example, Africa, as an example, has the youngest population in the world combined. So I'm talking about MENA, both like Africa and the Middle East, but I will focus mainly in Emirates because that's more or less the leading hub for Web3 and crypto as we speak today. So these factors, if you look at them, like you have, I mean, if I might summarize it from my experience, to have a vibrant ecosystem for Web3 and digital assets, you need about 3 factors that you need to handle, or 4. So number 1 is the infrastructure. And when I talk about the infrastructure, I refer to 2 things. The infrastructure as an infrastructure, basically internet, data centers, connectivity in general, plus the regulatory framework and the legal certainty. You need to have a legal certainty and a regulatory framework so that you bring that confidence for institutions to adopt Web3 solutions and also give guidance for the developers and the startups and the structures to build Web3 solutions. So that's one of the ingredients. The second factor is funding. You need to have risk appetite, or let's say venture capital funds or investors that believe in the Web3 and then believe in Web3 startups and projects, and they invest. Without funding, you cannot really drive innovation. So venture capital funds and investors, family offices, all the way up to sovereign wealth funds need to consider putting or allocating a big portion of their investments towards the Web3 initiatives and investments. And last but not least is the talent. So you need to have really top talent building this type of solutions. And that's why we tap into the universities and academic institutions to bring these brains and get them engaged to build Web3 solutions. And Dubai and Emirates in general succeeded, or Abu Dhabi succeeded in establishing that concept of a vibrant ecosystem because they have top venture capital funds, they have top talented people coming out of Asia, out of India, out of China, out of Africa, out of Europe, even out of US and Canada and Europe in general, and establishing really a top hub that is connecting investors, startups, enterprises, subject matter experts, small and medium enterprises. Basically, you have everything you need. You have everything you need from regulators, or let's say engaged regulators, all the way up to investors and top builders. And maybe just to give you an idea, as we speak today, I kind of, just to give you an indication, I was in the Token 2049 in Dubai. I think it was end of April. And the event, I think it was only for 2 days. And just to give you an idea of how vibrant it is, there have been over 500 side events organized.
Oh, wow.
During 2 days, yes. And I'm not talking about really small ones. I'm talking about big ones, organized or hosted by Hedera, by Tether, by Chainlink, by Cardano, Solana, and really top layer ones coming there. And also layer 2s and also other crypto infrastructure providers coming and connecting and supporting and driving the Web3 and crypto development. And then this is Dubai. As I mentioned, Dubai succeeded to position itself as the key international hub when it comes to Web3 by hosting a diverse and numerous Web3 events spread across the year, while Abu Dhabi, which is the capital, has established itself as the world's strongest financial capital and has earned the title of capital of capital. I believe it's been recently ranked as the world's wealthiest city in terms of assets managed by its sovereign wealth fund, which is exceeding $1.7 trillion. So we are talking about one city. Yeah? So we are talking about one state out of 7 in Emirates, which is Abu Dhabi, and their sovereign wealth funds are very known in their appetite in investing in Web3 projects and Web3 initiatives. So, and
Crazy.
we're talking about $1.7 trillion in assets that is managed out of the city that is called the capital of capital.
Yeah, and I can, I've been to some of these physical events, which are amazing to go to. But I mean, even in the US, like I think Consensus like sticks out, and maybe 100 side events, maybe,
Yes.
and some of them are a lot smaller than other ones, and it's like some NFT project that you never heard of is hosting a side event, but like
When I was really counting because we were checking with the team, like we got a lot of invites to attend and speak, and then we just checked the list and we said, well, it's over 500 side events. I mean, no chance on earth you will be able to attend all of them.
no.
And and just to give you an idea, the number of the crypto maxis and the digital assets maxis and pioneers and entrepreneurs that have consolidated in the region over the last few years.
It's crazy. I want to ask, I mean, this kind of leads us into, and we'll ramp down here, but notable milestones from your opinion that we've seen, and you can take this from the Hashgraph Association, from Hedera Hashgraph as kind of a network and technology, or just a broader state of the industry stance. Notable milestones that we've seen, it seems like we've really ramped up over the past 12 to 18 months with adoption. Do you kind of get that same sense? What are some of the things that stick out to you?
I agree. I mean, if you do an assessment and then you do that gap analysis, like go back 5 years back and then like make a comparison between 2020 and 2025, if you do that comparison, you will see and realize that the Web3 ecosystem over the last few years advanced beyond niche use cases. And we also have seen significant mainstream adoption when it comes to digital assets and Web3 in general. So the Web3 ecosystem, or the Web3 industry, has been undergoing transformative changes across technology innovation, and I call it production adoption, basically, where we have seen use cases that have been really went live and adopted, and they are really in the production deployment. Plus, a great level of maturity when it comes to regulation. So 5 years ago, I still remember in the region or across the regions, you have seen drafts, frameworks, but now we are talking about DLT acts or digital assets acts or crypto asset acts. Basically, you have that legal certainty and that legal framework that helps you to build solutions while giving confidence to institutional investors and institutions to adopt the Web3 solutions. So with the successful deployments of these key solutions, such as the digital identity, for example, full-fledged solutions around real-world asset tokenizations, and we have seen also innovative solutions when it comes to remittances and cross-border payments. I think the industry in general is gearing up for a future that is bridging Web3 solutions, and I call them legacy systems, basically core banking systems or other legacy systems that have established as part of the Web3 transition. So we will see a future that is bridging the Web3 scalability with the Web3 decentralization or decentralized nature. So I'm really excited about that. And on the top of it, you have also the regulatory clarity, plus more conversions across the different chains. So in my view, things are really finally aligning themselves to drive the mass adoption of decentralized applications. But if you want me to summarize it, I would say maybe in 5 points. So point number 1 is, or this type of change and mass adoption, in my view, can be attributed to the cross-chain infrastructure / the interoperability, which is taking center stage, ensuring seamless communication between blockchains and other layer 1 protocols, which is solving fragmentation in the Web3 ecosystem. The second point is regulatory clarity and global standards. So finally, we have unified standards across the globe, and we have legal certainty out of key jurisdictions, which is resulting in institutional confidence and increased participation in Web3, not only at the individual level, but also at the institutional level. Number 3, we have improved user experience, meaning scalability solutions, integration with Web3 platforms. Basically, you don't have that silos or these silos anymore, which is more or less leading to enhanced accessibility and reduced entry barriers for non-technical users. Plus the fact that we finally have seen end-to-end transformations for tokenizations of real world assets, basically tokenizations of assets like real estate, stocks, and other financial assets, is also becoming a significant use case that is driving the main adoption of Web3 use cases, and also unlocking trillions of dollars in value, and also helps to democratize investment opportunities. And the most important development that I think is really driving the mass adoption and also the establishment of the Web3 industry is the fusion of Web3 and AI technologies, which is a groundbreaking development that will result in a new era of innovative and digital landscape, and will really bring the digital empowerment to the next level.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I'm one of the probably the boring people that when I have time, I'll like deep dive into like central banking documents for like speeches and stuff, which nobody else does.
Yeah.
But I remember like looking into documentation 2019, 2020, 2021, and it was kind of like this, crypto distributed ledger technology is this super niche use case, and the risks outweigh the benefits. But then slowly 2022, 2023, you start seeing the narrative shift a little bit. I actually just, there was a speech from the deputy governor of Central Bank of France, and what you kind of come to realize too is like you do enough digging, and all the entities kind of have similar verbiage, and but they're just at different adoption points.
Yes,
but
I agree.
The deputy governor of the Bank of France, basically in the speech yesterday, said, our first goal is to, immediately move from kind of pilot phase to operational phase and they were talking about wholesale CBDCs, and wholesale CBDC, obviously the B2B standpoint. And then further down the line, you get into like the digital euro and stuff. And I know that different jurisdictions have different thoughts on stablecoins versus CBDC and stuff. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole there, but
yes,
we've seen a clear shift in narrative where it's not a matter of kind of if something's going to be adopted. It's just kind of when in different jurisdictions.
That's a great level of maturity that we are seeing also in the Web3 industry, which is great.
I want to let you walk us out here, Kamal, and it's been a pleasure having you today. But if you could give us just your thoughts on the future and any forward-looking statements, basically, what are you excited about for the future of the Hashgraph Association, the future of the Hedera ecosystem, or the broader space?
Yeah, I mean, in general, the future of tech-enabled transformations embodied in the convergence of AI and DLT/blockchain technologies. It's not just an incremental change, but it's a paradigm shift in how we interact with the digital world. So the intersection is the essence of Web3 establishment. We will see a more intelligent, immersive, and secure internet. And as we navigate this era, or this exciting era, the focus from our side as the Hashgraph Association will be on developing user-centric, practical, and sustainable decentralized solutions in a secure and compliant ecosystem that, number one, delivers on the promise of decentralization, and at the same time harnesses AI cognitive capabilities while addressing real-world challenges and fulfilling the needs of Web3 industry. With that said, let's go hand in hand out of the Hashgraph Association with our sister organizations such as the Hedera Foundation or the Exponential Science Foundation, together with the community and champs and advocates to build an empowered digital future for all while leveraging Hedera Hashgraph capabilities. And all I can say is stay tuned for THA updates and keep in touch with our management team to learn more about the innovation programs and that we are structuring for the Hedera ecosystem. And stay also tuned because we are going to make some great announcements over the upcoming weeks about programs that have been designed for the Hedera community to empower the Hedera community and include them in the ecosystem development activities going forward.
Awesome. Well, I definitely want to mention for those that want to learn more, go to hashgraph.swiss. You can go to genfinity.io and check out I'm sure we'll be writing a piece on this interview as well, because it was an awesome interview. But we've done articles on the PricewaterhouseCoopers interview, Boston Consulting Group's BCGX, Deloitte's, Valor, BIA. If you want to learn more about the hackathon, go to Hedera hackathon.hashgraph.swiss. Give the Hashgraph Association a follow on X at @the_Hashgraph, and give Kamal a follow at Youssefi Kamal on X as well. Kamal, hang out with me here for just 1 second as I ramp this down to make sure I get the recordings, because this was an awesome interview, and I know you're super busy. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm here with you.